My name is Leah Thomas. I'm a transgender woman, a former college swimmer, and the first trans athlete to be named Division I NCAA champion.
You're a man. You're a man. Get off the podium. Give back the trophies. You're a thief. You're a cheater. You're a fraud. Ba 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 bum. I'm not sure if we should be playing Bad to the Bone when we're talking about Leah Thomas. Might qualify as an entendre. Perhaps a triple entendre. It's perhaps too early to say for sure. Well, a very good hump day to you. Welcome back once again. We continue to be reachable at 888-630-9625. 888-630-9625. That was a dude who goes by the name Leah Thomas. Not a woman, not a lady, not really named Leah, not a lady swimmer, a thief, a cheater. And the Democrat Party is all in with this. They love cheating. They love stealing because they're the left. And that's what the left does. It's what the left has always done. That's why they've got a communist, rabid, genocidal anti-Semite as their Democrat Party nominee for the mayor's race in New York City, our most populous city. Isn't it amazing? Now, we learned last night that the University of Pennsylvania has announced that they will apologize for allowing transgender swimmer Leah Thomas, not his real name, to compete on women's teams. And Leah Thomas said, "Hey, I didn't have to do anything. I just showed up and they let me compete as a lady, even though I'm like 6'5" man and I've got all the men parts and I'm going to cheat against the women and you can't tell me that I can't because don't you know who I am?" And this is the Democrat Party. This is all about the Democrat Party. Communism in New York, Islamism in New York, Islamism on Ivy League school campuses, Ivy League college campuses, and this man named Leah Thomas, who's not a woman at all, competing in college athletics against actual women, young women who are competing as college athletes who work their whole high school careers to get college scholarships to compete in the Ivy Leagues and swimming and so on. And then the Democrats come in and steal everything. But you heard the dude's voice when we opened, and then this is Leah Thomas. Leah Thomas is a man.
All trans kids deserve the opportunity to compete and play in the sports they love without compromising who they are.
Yeah, in the sports they love without compromising who they are. Well, then you could compete against other men because that would be appropriate.
I knew there would be scrutiny against me if I competed as a woman, but I also don't need anybody's permission.
You do need anybody's permission. You do need someone's permission because you're here to cheat. And that's the thing about you. And the permission that you needed at 6'1", fully intact male college athlete competing against young women who are about a foot shorter, practically in many cases. Now I think 26 years old and just completely ridiculous. I've got to say, the Democrat Party made this happen. And now they're going to have to kind of take it back because Leah is a dude. Leah is a man, and not a lady at all. And you hear the voice on this nice lady, just great stuff. Man, oh, Manischewitz, I am telling you. And so now the dim-witted people at the Ivy League institution, the University of Pennsylvania, where, by the way, that's where the Biden Center is, isn't it? The Biden Center, Joseph Biden. The Biden Center is there, and they got dudes who don't look like ladies competing as women in order to steal all their stuff. And then this dude with the man's voice, the obvious man's voice, honestly, wants to get out there and swim his gonads off.
Are there Olympics in your future?
It's been a goal of mine to swim at Olympic trials for a very long time, and I would love to see that through.
I would love to see that through. That is a man, and the Democrat Party is responsible for this. The Democrat Party did all of this. The Democrat Party is guilty as hell of all kinds of crazy things, but this is one. This is one. You know, the illegal aliens, the open borders, the gangs, the murders, the rapes, the human trafficking, the child sex trafficking, the drug trafficking, the more than 100,000 fatal drug overdoses in 1 year in the United States of America, and, of course, men stealing trophies from women in college athletics and saying, oh, well, let's go to the Olympics because now we're East Germany. We used to mock East Germany for sending what they called women with male parts to the Olympics. And now the Democrat Party here, they are East Germany. They have evolved. I think that might be the term that I'm looking for. They've evolved or devolved to the point. Oh, I am Leah. No, you're a dude. But now that's all changing a bit. Because the University of Pennsylvania is now backing away, saying that they're going to apologize, which always reminds me of, what was that, John Cleese in A Fish Called Wanda, right? Going to apologize. Penn, and this is 10 hours ago in the Washington Post, which is not a legitimate newspaper at all. University of Pennsylvania will bar transgender athletes, that is to say men, from competing as women, from women's sports teams. Imagine that. And the Washington Post, they're very, very unhappy about this. They're very upset. University of Pennsylvania is not going to allow men to compete against women in college athletics. And the University of Pennsylvania, not in the Washington Post, they plan to erase Leah Thomas's records, Leah Thomas's many records, shattering women's records because he is a 6'1" man competing as a woman, and he's a cheater, and so are all the Democrats that support this, including the Ivy League Biden Center people at the University of Pennsylvania.
During this time of intense anti-trans backlash, the trans community needs explicit protections from discrimination in order to live our lives freely and equally.
So the University of Pennsylvania has agreed to prohibit transgender athletes. This all goes to President Trump, by the way, doing the right thing. The University of Pennsylvania has agreed to prohibit transgender athletes, that is, men competing as women. There are no women trying to compete as men, you may have noticed, which is clear an indication as you need, or as you ought to need, to understand the conundrum here, which is not really a conundrum at all, unless you have a defective brain, which seems to be a common malady among Democrats in America today. The University of Pennsylvania agreed to prohibit transgender athletes from competing in women's sports and strip the record of former swimmer Leah Thomas as part of an agreement with the U.S. Department of Education. Penn, the University of Pennsylvania, entered the resolution agreement Tuesday, July 1st, that's yesterday, to comply with Title IX, the Department of Education announced, as the University of Pennsylvania has been under investigation surrounding the case of Leah Thomas, who became the first openly transgender athlete to win the NCAA Division I title. The National College Athletics Association, and Division I, that's the best of the best, and won the title because you got a dude competing as a woman. Under the agreement, the University of Pennsylvania will restore the swimming records and titles of its female athletes that were broken by Thomas. Was it the athletes that were broken by Thomas? Well, it was the records, at least, that were broken by Thomas for sure. The university will also allow transgender athletes to compete in female athletic programs, as what it says here in USA Today. The university will also not allow transgender athletes to compete in female athletic programs, and it has to send personal apology letters to impacted swimmers. That's funny. So these swimmers, these women, are going to get apology letters from the University of Pennsylvania, which they can put in frames next to their diplomas from the Ivy League institution. I think that when I was a child, for some reason, I was convinced to be impressed by Ivy League institutions, certain universities and colleges, and I have never been less impressed with Harvard or Columbia or the University of Pennsylvania, which have all turned into loony bins in myriad ways. She, that is to say he, holds Penn's women's swimming records in the 100 free, and then they give the times here, the 200 free, the 500 free, the 1,000 free, the 1650 free. That's the freestyle swimming, swimming like a normal person, not backstroke or butterfly or anything, but regular freestyle. Thompson won her, meaning his, NCAA title in the women's 500-yard freestyle event in 2022. She, meaning he, also tied for fifth. Imagine this. You tied for fifth and you're a man. Tied for fifth in the women's 200-yard freestyle and was eighth in the 100-yard freestyle that year. These women must be great swimmers. But the Democrats, they stole all of that and corrupted it and made it dirty and filthy. Dirty, dirty, dirty. The NCAA did not respond to a request for comment after the announcement at the University of Pennsylvania and the resolution there. The reaction to University of Pennsylvania's decision on transgender athletes is mixed, as you might imagine. The decision comes as the Trump administration has focused on banning transgender athletes from competing in girls' sports. That seems appropriate since that's why we have girls' sports. And that you have women competing against women and men competing against men. And you remember the Williams sisters, the great women tennis players. And one of the Williams sisters said, well, I'll beat any man who's ranked over 200. So she said, well, the 200, the top 200 men will beat me. But anybody that's ranked over 200, I'll beat them. And this guy came forward who was ranked 203rd and just mopped the floor with Serena Williams, just wiped him out and wiped her out. She doesn't claim to be a man. She's pretty tough, though. Serena, and then who's the other Williams sister? Oh, yeah, Venus. That's right. Venus, if you will. Went and took her down, too. Pretty amazing stuff. And that was a great moment in sports. And the Democrats, they've got a lot of issues, and this is one of them. And it's good that this is being corrected because it's cheating, it's corrupt, it's criminal. Yeah, that was a great moment, 1998, claiming they could beat any male player ranked outside of the top 200. Serena and Venus Williams they were challenged by Karsten Brach, who was ranked 203, 203rd, defeated both sisters 6-1 and 6-2. That is just, boom, boom. And then they were gracious enough about it and said, wow, I didn't think it'd go that badly. So I give them credit for being honest about it. But that's why we have men's sports and women's sports, and rather than just sports. But the Democrats said, hey, I'm completely screwed up in the head, and I'm a sexual psycho and a gender mental case. So let's ruin everything. And the Democrat Party has done that. It's time to straighten that out. President Trump is working on that. The big wireless companies, the big cell phone companies, they're pulling one over on all of us. And it's time to switch to consumer cellular. Listen, I switched to consumer cellular, getting the same fast, reliable, nationwide, big wireless coverage with, connections to all the same towers and everything, but without the big wireless company costs. And it's not just about saving money on my bill. It's about not being used and abused by the big carriers. Do you even know how much data you use every month? Probably not. I don't. Most people over 50 use less than 8 gigs of data every month, but younger people use a whole lot more. Lots and lots of gigs of data every month. But the big wireless people, they shove you into an unlimited plan because they're redistributing the money from your bill to pay for young people using a lot more data. You know, if you're not using all that data, you're being used and abused and overcharged. A lot of people, a lot of us have had enough of that. I went to Consumer Cellular. Consumer Cellular set me up with a service and with an amazing phone with the best camera ever. And it's really easy to switch, too. You call them on the telephone, and you talk to an actual person based right here in the United States, not a bot based on a continent far, far away. Real human beings right here in the United States who are incredibly helpful. It only takes about 20 minutes to make the switch. And it's great. You save a lot of money every month, too. So give them a call today and make the switch. Call 1-800-760-0702. That's 800-760-0702. Yeah, we got a lot of Democrat stuff going on today. P. Diddy, he's a Democrat. We got that going on. We've got murder trials and mayhem and men that Democrats call women.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No, I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. So we got the Democrat P. Diddy verdict in. He has been acquitted of the really big bad charges, but he's found not guilty of sex trafficking by force, not guilty of fraud and coercion. He's been found guilty of prostitution. You're a prostitute? Of what? Now, is he the prostitute here, Michael? What is he found guilty of? He's got the prostitution, 2 counts. Transportation to engage in prostitution. Is that illegal in New York? I didn't think that was. I know the mayor there wants to make all prostitution legal, so he would have to overturn the communist, Islamists, genocidal, anti-Semite, kleptocrat, Democrat, leader of the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party. So I've got it for you coming. And also I have Riley Gaines talking about Leah Thomas, the dude with all the records at the Ivy League at University of Pennsylvania. That's coming up as well.
Under the Trump administration, we will defend the proud tradition of female athletes, and we will not allow men to beat up, injure, and cheat our women and our girls. From now on, women's sports will be only for women.
This is infuriating to the Democrat Party, which loves their communist mayoral candidate who wants to wipe out Jews everywhere on earth. Just in New York City, though. It's not like he's yet there. He can't be their presidential candidate, but they might try to change the law so they can run the communist, genocidal anti-Semite, America hater, billionaire slayer as president of the United States. But for now, he's going for mayor of New York. All right, I want to share an item with you. Our great, the great American woman, Riley Gaines, college athlete, college swimmer, who had to compete against this man who went by the name Leah Thomas. What was it, William? I think it's William Thomas, because he's a dude. All right, but let's go to Riley Gaines, because Riley Gaines was on the television last night on the Fox News channel with Laura Ingraham when she was asked, hey, looks like the University of Pennsylvania is going to restore your titles, erase the titles and the records that were corruptly, falsely won by a man going by a woman's name, Leah Thomas. And the news media today, USA Today, continues to refer to him as her and she, but Riley Gaines on last night with Laura Ingraham.
So many sat idly by and watched and actually reprimanded us as women if we even dared to speak about this. To say that I, of course, am grateful for Secretary McMahon, for President Trump, for even Attorney General Bondi. She's been fantastic at the Department of Justice on this issue is an understatement. I feel vindicated. I feel like pigs are flying. I feel like hell has frozen over.
That is, and she's great. She's also, because she is a woman, a fertile young woman with a womb and ovaries. It turns out that she has been impregnated by a man, and she is going to be giving birth.
So it is a fantastic day, of course, for sanity, for common sense, but I think more broadly for women, for humanity, for the little girl that I'm growing inside of me right now that I will welcome to the world in just a few weeks. I think of her. I think of her future. That is what Donald Trump and, of course, Secretary McMahon and myself, that is what we are fighting for. So very, very excited about today's news.
It's fighting for sanity, for rationality, for culture, for civilization, for the English language, for biology, for civilization itself, which is very much under assault by the left, especially here around the world. But we were always impervious to this kind of mental illness until the Democrat Party became the center of mental illness in the universe. All right, and with that, Michael, let's go to the telephones. Let's go to our friend Neil calling from Brooklyn, New York. Neil, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning to the audience, and happy 249th birthday.
That's right. We're coming up on 249 on Friday. Yeah, CNN announced this morning that they're going to begin their 4th of July coverage on Friday. They put that on the screen, and we're like, oh, they're going to start the 4th of July coverage on the 4th of July. That's interesting. Yeah.
Well, there's a victory for you.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to tie a couple of these stories together that you brought up. One is the Penn story, and the other is the CBS 60 Minutes cave-in. I don't think either one of these is really much of a cultural victory because, yeah, I'm glad for Riley Gaines, but nowhere in any statement made by Penn do they say that gender is immutable and that the mistake they made has anything to do with their misinterpretation of biology or science or actual facts. They just basically have come to a resolution and they apologize. It's a very bland statement. And the reason that they did this is because they're up against losing $1 billion in federal funds. And with respect to CBS, that's also a transactional situation because, as you know, they're afraid that, and I don't think Trump would do this, but they're trembling that he would get in the way of this big multi-billion-dollar merger that the Redstones want to do with Skydance Media. Nowhere in their statement did they admit to any kind of journalistic malpractice or malfeasance or putting their thumb on the scale for Kamala or anything like that. So both of these things just sort of illustrate that the only way to go after these cultural victories, if you want to even call it that, because I don't think it really changed anybody's mind on either side, is to just do the thumb screws and to make it as uncomfortable for their side as possible to continue practicing, if not changing the way they believe, but in practicing how they distort reality. That's my point.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I like the way you tied together CBS and Penn. And you're right, Penn has not come out and said, all right, uncle, we admit that men are not women and women are not men, and that when you're born female, that you're going to grow up to be a girl and then a woman. If you live that long, and if you're born male, you're going to grow up to be a boy and then a man. You're right. They should be forced to, come out in the stocks with their ankles and their wrists through the stocks in the quad. And the president of the university should be forced to declare what is obviously true, what has been known by all civilizations for thousands of years, which they are currently in denial of, right, Neil? And you're right about CBS, too. They said, give them $30 million and give Trump $16 million, and then we'll just pretend that nothing happened. And you're right. That's what's happening there.
Yeah, I guess ideally with the Title IX situation, like, it would have been great to have some kind of a court case where you have a Hollywood ending where Riley Gaines comes down the courthouse steps after the judge declares that gender is immutable and boys are boys and girls are girls. But these things don't happen that way. So, they have to grudgingly accept that they, lost in the court of public opinion, but not really in any kind. Like, no one's punished for this. What they did to these girls over many years is really unspeakable, and they'll never get a real victory like on the podium or the glory that they so justly earned.
Yeah, you're right about their achievements, their accomplishments that were stolen from them by people that call themselves liberals, and they think that they're doing these things in the name of liberalism. It's like siding with Hamas over Israel. The liberal mind is a terrible thing, and they've just landed on the crazy side of everything. It's not just the wrong side of everything. It's the crazy, irrational, like you should be institutionalized side of these issues. And it's not one issue or two issues. It's a panoply of issues. It's across the spectrum. Culturally, politically, economically, they are just the Democrat Party, because the left, they've been taken over by the left, and the left has always been crazy, right, Neil? And now we're seeing it on display with the Democrat Party. And you're calling from Brooklyn. I'm going to guess you probably didn't vote for Mad Manny over here, Mom Donnie, but you think he's going to be? What do you call him?
I call him Mom Kami.
Mom Kami, that's good too. And I swapped out the M and the D, and then he's Mad Manny, right? And you think he's going to win the mayoral race there?
I think he certainly has a shot.
Yeah,
because they've brainwashed this whole Gen Z.
Yeah.
It's really sad. Yeah, he does have a shot.
Yeah, it's quite amazing.
I think in the end he will lose. I think that there will be some outpouring of sanity at the 11th hour. That's partly hope speaking, but right. I think that the day of the Democrat primary was like 102 degrees here, so all of the potential older Cuomo voters did not come out to vote.
Yeah.
Which I think accounts for a lot of that lopsided final. And plus, it was that stupid ranked choice voting thing, which is not going to apply in the general election.
Right. So you think climate change had something to do with it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because climate change. That is. We live in crazy times, Neil. I got to tell you, Neil and I have been talking for a long time, for years now. On and off, and great caller, smart guy, and you live in Brooklyn, still in Brooklyn, and New York is going crazier and crazier, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a pretty bad string of socialists, from De Blasio to Adams to even Bloomberg was, leaning that way, even though he was a very good hands-on manager with a good delegation style. But ever since then, it's really been downhill.
In the city with, Daniel Penny on the subway, and the city wants to lynch the savior. I got to tell you, New York, and now this county. I don't wish you any harm. I think you're great. But New York City almost deserves this guy. The city almost, and maybe the country would learn a lesson if this communist Islamist Democrat became the mayor of our most populous city. Maybe there would be something has to be the death blow to today's Democrat Party, because they're out of their minds. And you're talking about the University of Pennsylvania and their gender thing, and how they finally kind of capitulated to the Department of Justice because of the obvious violation of Title IX, which is law that Democrats used to praise. And also USA Today says that in March, the White House cut $175 million in federal funding for the University of Pennsylvania related to this men competing as women thing. So you're right, when it's, you hit them where the money is, and suddenly they get a fake case of morality.
Well, yeah, it's they just want to stop the bleeding, and they came to the mat only so far as it was necessary to make that happen, not to admit any moral wrongdoing. Zero. And as a matter of fact, thinking about it now, if they're admitting that what they did was wrong, then they're also admitting that they let a female impersonator get in the water with these other girls, and they should all be charged for that.
Well, they won't be, of course, because we live in a if you're a leftist lunatic, we live in an accountability-free world. It's
fraud, though. I think there's some real civil fraud there. So maybe one of these girls wants to throw a lawsuit at you, Penn, that would really stick. I don't know.
Interesting. I love it. I'd love to see the women sue the university. They all have these multi-billion-dollar endowments, and the women that were screwed out of what they had worked so hard to earn, the women should be rewarded, and the institution should be punished. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. Neil, all right, you're the best. Thanks, buddy. Neil from Brooklyn, New York. Thanks for checking in. We do have, as I mentioned, the verdict in the Sean P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Puffy, Combs, sexual deviant, perfectly normal Democrat, Harvey Weinstein, Bill Clinton. Look, most people like sex, and that's good. There's nothing new about that either. But these people are out of their stinking minds. And I've got to say, the Sean Diddy Combs, here's the headline at CNN, because they love the crime. Sean Diddy Combs acquitted of most serious counts. That's their headline. That's the way they want it. In a mixed verdict, jurors in Sean Diddy Combs' federal criminal trial acquitted him of the most serious charges. In New York City. Is this the same courthouse where a Democrat self-immolated and killed himself out there when President Trump was inside, being put on trial for, what was that, a non-disclosure agreement? That's it, which all the networks and newspapers enter into every year. But they found him not guilty of the most serious charges, racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking, but found him guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, the sentencing, he could still get up to 20 years in prison. The maximum is 10 years for each count, the transportation convictions. The prosecution, if he had been convicted of any of the other counts, it looked like he might have got the 55-year-old guy could have faced up to life in prison. Life in prison. Now, that's kind of wacky. Now, among the things that he was involved with, pretty awful stuff, I've got to say, he would bring in people from around not just the country but the world to engage in sex acts in front of him, because he said, well, why would I just watch porn movies? I'll hire people to do it live in front of me. This was one of his things. But the Democrats are thinking about running him for mayor of New York, perhaps. Or maybe Congress, because Democrats. I've got more on what he is actually, what they found out in court he was fond of doing. I have that coming up. You know that the all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier has finally arrived, and the third generation builds on the previous generation's the incredible success, which earned thousands of 5-star reviews on Al Gore's amazing internet bestseller in no time at all. The new Eden Pure Thunderstorm uses 2 technologies that studies have shown help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria and viruses floating in the air that you breathe. It also removes dust and pet dander and smoke and a whole lot more, and it gets rid of any stinky odor. I'm talking about anything. Trash cans, cigarette smoke, musty basements, left-wing protesters, no match for the Eden Pure thunderstorm. Any smell will vanish in seconds. And right now, because you know me, you can save $200 on an Eden Pure thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. Put one in your basement, your teenager's room. Bring one to the office. Make one a gift for someone that you know needs it. Any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. That's where you put one. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com, EdenPureDeals.com, and use the discount code Chris3. That's me, CHRIS, and the number 3 to save $200 on 3 thunderstorms. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is Chris3. Yes, sir. Yeah, Sean P. Diddy, just another Democrat. More sordid details coming up. All right, I'm going to get to a bunch of stuff. And we have the mailbag coming up. And my best girl and I went out with the police on Saturday on a ride-along. And I want to report to you on that as well. Right now, let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Henry, calling from Dunkirk, Maryland. Henry, you're on the Chris Plant Show. Henry, you're on the Chris Plant Show. Henry, I can hear Henry's phone moving around, but he's not there. Let's go to Randy, calling from the great state of Arkansas. Randy, you are on the Chris Plant Show.
Morning, Chris.
Hey, Randy.
Say, I wanted to, your last caller I liked a lot, and I liked a lot of things he had to say about the Pennsylvania thing and the other, but I disagree with one of his statements that he didn't think it really did any good, didn't change anybody's minds. You know, I think it was Andrew Breitbart said politics is downstream from culture or something like that. But,
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
You know, 15 years ago, nobody was talking about this. Nobody was worrying about whether they really believed this or not. It just wasn't even on the radar. And now that, you know, then they get these people on promoting this stuff. And
yeah, the Democrat Party and the Gaydar, and we are coming to our senses, aren't we?